You know the situation. We've all been there. You have this great conversation with someone, you really feel like you clicked, but then nothing. Crickets. They never, ever text you first. But the weird part is, when you reach out, they reply almost instantly and they're super warm and engaged. It's this classic social puzzle that can honestly drive you a little nuts. So, let's dive into this and figure out what's really going on here.
And this right here is where the whole misunderstanding happens. On one side, our gut reaction, what society tells us, is to think, oh, they're arrogant, or they're just playing games, or worse, they're just not that into me. But on the other side, psychology tells a completely different story. A story that has to do with things like emotional safety, brain chemistry, and some really strong boundaries. That's the conflict we're going to unpack today. So here's the most important thing to get. For certain people, especially those who are really observant, not hitting you up first isn't a sign they don't care. It's actually a deeply wired, self-protective response. It's not a flaw in their character. It's just part of their unique psychological blueprint. To really truly understand why they do this, we need to look at what's going on under the hood. So let's break down the 5 hidden psychological reasons that explain this super misunderstood silence.
All right, let's jump right in with reason number 1. They value their emotional safety way more than they value their own ego.
This often ties back to a concept in psychology called avoidant attachment. Now, don't get hung up on the name. It's not about avoiding people. It's about avoiding the pain of rejection or that awful feeling of being ignored. For them, it's a survival tactic they've probably learned over a long, long time.
And this quote just nails the logic behind it, doesn't it? It's a quiet, powerful form of self-protection. If they don't put themselves out there first, they can't get hurt. It's a shield that we so often mistake for a wall.
Okay, let's move on to the second reason. This one is all about the brain's deep need for certainty, not just a casual desire for connection.
For a mind that's always analyzing things, sending that first text can feel like a huge risk. That uncertainty can literally trigger the amygdala, the brain's little alarm system. And when that goes off, logic kind of goes out the window, and this overthinking loop starts spinning. You know the one, what if I'm bothering them? What if they don't actually want to hear from me right now?
So when you're the one who texts first, you're doing so much more than just saying, hey. You are sending a signal of safety. Your message is basically the big green light that tells their anxious brain, hey, you're good, you're wanted here. And it's only after they get that signal that their guard can come down and a real connection can actually begin.
Moving on to reason number 3. And wow, this one is so incredibly relevant in the world we live in today, exhausted brain chemistry. I mean, think about it. We are drowning in notifications, all day, every day. For people who are highly sensitive, this can lead to something called dopamine desensitization. All that means is their brain gets so overstimulated, so worn out, that it just stops giving them that little hit of reward, that good feeling, for normal social stuff like sending a text. Seriously, think back. A text message used to feel exciting, right? A little buzz of possibility. Now, for so many people, it just feels like more noise. That initial spark has been replaced by a kind of emotional numbness. So they're not reaching out first because their brain is literally too tired to feel the reward anymore.
The fourth reason, this one is all about setting up really strict, but often invisible, boundaries to protect their energy.
You know, a lot of the people who never text first now, they actually used to be the ones who did all the work. They were the planners, the conversation starters, the ones keeping relationships alive. But after years of putting in all that one-sided effort, they just stopped. This isn't them playing hard to get. It's a really powerful act of self-respect. They're protecting their mental energy.
And this is the quiet rule they've set for themselves. It's their own personal test for emotional balance. They're not tired of people, not at all. They're just tired of pouring all of their energy into cups that don't pour back.
And finally, we've got the 5th reason. Now this one is a little different. It's less about being defensive and a bit more about being strategic.
Sometimes, psychologists call this strategic scarcity. And it's actually a sign of really high emotional intelligence, or EQ. See, people with a deep understanding of how humans tick know that being constantly available can sometimes, ironically, lower the value of an interaction. So by pulling back just a little, they naturally control the rhythm of the connection, which keeps things interesting. It's not manipulation, it's just social fluency. Now this is where it gets even more fascinating, because this whole texting habit, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It often plugs into a much larger and often rarer personality profile. So you really have to ask yourself, is this one little habit just a single piece of the puzzle, or is it a clue to a much, much bigger psychological picture? Think about these traits. instantly noticing patterns that other people miss, asking those really deep, clarifying questions, speaking with incredible precision and logic. These are all signs of what some people call an intimidating mind. And it's not intimidating like scary, it's intimidating because of the deep, analytical way they process the world. Their texting habit? It's just one small expression of a mind that's running on a different operating system, one that's more cautious, more observant, and way more intentional.
So after all that, how should we look at this? Let's try to reframe this whole thing and maybe even reclaim it as a kind of strength.
If you are one of these people who rarely text first, this is the most important thing you can take away from all this. Your silence is a shield, not a flaw. It is a defense mechanism you have built for some very, very good reasons. You're simply operating based on your own unique psychological wiring. You value your peace, you value your energy, and you value your authenticity way more than you value forced digital small talk or trying to live up to some random social expectation.
And that leaves us with one last question to think about. In a world that just will not stop talking, is your deliberate silence really a sign of weakness? Or could it actually be a sign of a deeper, more profound wisdom?